Has Meghan Markle's victim racist narrative completely collapsed? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about the very epic takedown of Meghan Markle by comedian Chris Rock. Yes, he talked about her for about 4 minutes in his stand-up routine. He deviated and talked about a couple other things as well, but he often said, Meghan Markle! And it was just fascinating to see somebody who really should be on Meghan's side have really no sympathy for her whatsoever. He even questions her intelligence, her intentions, all these sorts of things regarding the royal family. And I think it really highlights that Meghan's racism victimization narrative, it's gone. Nobody buys it anymore. And I think Chris Rock put to words what so many people are thinking. So we're going to unpack that in addition to apparently some crisis emergency talks that Harry and Meghan had with Tyler Perry, who is the godfather of baby Lilibet, and also said that he would not go to England for her christening because they're racist. But his meeting with Harry and Meghan, I think, is indicative of what a bad situation that they're in. Their favorabilities, a new poll just came out today again, showing that they keep tanking. Not only that is their negative score, so how many people between November 30th and March 3rd, I think, took the survey and said that they disliked Harry and Meghan. It was worse for them than it was for Prince Andrew. And if Harry and Meghan aren't in an absolute full-on meltdown panic mode, then they need to get into that right now, because I don't think they have much of a future in Hollywood. And I think people like Chris Rock will applaud it. So we are going to talk about all this today, but if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes a little gossip too. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history too. So if you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. We have surpassed 100,000 and I'm so excited. I ordered my plaque, guys, and I'm also getting in the process of getting a cake ordered, like a specialty cake, because I want to have a little mini celebration because I think this is super cool. So I'll do an unboxing with the plaque and I'm just so excited. So if you guys want to continue on this journey, because there are more plaques to earn. So I just can't wait to continue growing and growing this channel. Guys, there's going to be so many things coming this year. I have a lot of travel planned. I really want to go and get a lot of content, go to a lot of events, and I can do that all because of you guys. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It is amazing to get to do what I love and hopefully be able to do a lot more interviews. You guys really love those. I'd love to interview some royals as well. So I'll be trying to see who may be available. I'm sure it'll be peripheral members first, and hopefully it can grow into some of the more prominent members of different families, and hopefully maybe even the British. I don't have strong hopes for that yet, but at some point in the future, we will get there. So guys, I'm so excited for y'all to come with me on this journey. I'll actually be going to the UK this week. I'm getting some prep work done for the coronation, so some B-roll and different things. I'll also be getting some fashion content. So I'm really excited to share with you guys, and I'll be attempting to vlog better this time. I tried it last year during the coronation and I was not very successful, but this time, guys, we are really going to try. So I am super excited to share with you guys my trip. Hopefully, maybe I'll have a little vlog for every day, and hope you guys really enjoy it because it should be a lot of fun, and I'll have other videos connected with it as well. I'm just so extremely excited. So guys, again, thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I also have a couple other things. I have a weekly newsletter, Royal Wire. I also have a fashion channel, so I'll put a link to that. That one's on a bit of a hiatus, but should be back soon. And I also have a trip to the UK that did already sell out, so you could go with me to London and the Cotswolds. So there's a wait list in case somebody drops off. But I will also have a couple other trips in the works. One is to Germany and Austria, and the other one is to Scotland. And those will probably happen in August, September timeframe. And so those will be really amazing. And usually for royal watching, August is pretty slow. But the Austria and Germany one, there's a ton ton of castles involved in it. So I'm so excited. Some of them I've been to, some of them I haven't. It includes Neuschwanstein, which is the Cinderella castle in Germany. It's very, very famous. So if you guys are interested in that, as soon as I have details or the release date or whatever, I will let you guys know. And before we get into the whole Meghan Markle, Chris Rock thing, we do have Princess Madeline news. She's one of my favorite royals to watch. She actually lives here in Florida, but the Swedish royal court just announced today that she and her family are going to be relocating back to Sweden. And so they actually did live in Sweden for a period of time. They started out in New York City, her and her husband, then they moved to Sweden, then to London, or maybe it was London, then Sweden, and then to Florida. And so now apparently they're moving back to Sweden. And so I'm excited to see her at more formal events. So this is state dinners and the Nobel Prize ceremony that happens every December. So that's really interesting. She did it in part because her children, to be in the line of succession, part of the requirement is that they need to be in a Swedish school, learning Swedish and everything like that. And so she couldn't totally fulfill that in Florida. I thought they had maybe amended that so she could still continue with her kids in Florida, but no, they have moved over. That order is still in place. So in order to make sure her children get their birthright, essentially, she is moving them back to Sweden. And it's such an interesting comparison between Madeline and Harry because Madeline is the youngest child of the king and she has lived a very, very private life here in Florida. She pops up at engagements from time to time locally, but it's been pretty minimal. We only see her every couple of months maybe. Whereas Harry is trying to make his Hollywood thing work and it's not working at all. And because he has damaged his relationship with his family to such an extent, his children, who should rightly probably have the title of prince and princess, will probably be denied it because they don't need it. And I have argued before as well that I think the letters of patent do need to be amended to say, if you have a royal title, you must live in the UK. Or as your children must have a royal title, you must live in the UK. Because having a prince and princess of the UK in Los Angeles makes absolutely zero sense. And so I'm just excited, although kind of sad because I wanted to interview Madeline about her time here in the United States. I'll still probably request that and see if that's possible because I just think it would be really interesting to hear her thoughts about her time here with her children and her family. So hopefully maybe that'll come about. And before we talk again about Harry and Meghan, let's talk about the latest poll results, which are rather interesting. So this poll looks at a couple of things. So it says their favorability in November versus their favorability now. And the difference is a minus or plus depending on what people chose. And so when you're looking at this, obviously Catherine remains the most popular royal. Next behind her is William. And they both had a bit of decreases after Harry's book came out. But do you know who damaged Harry and Meghan more from their reality show and Harry's book? Because they initially polled in November to get these results. Now we have new ones in March. Why, it's Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan are experiencing more damage from themselves than the royal family is. Now the royal family, they've taken a hit, but not as much as Harry and Meghan. And I think Chris Rock identifies why. Not directly, he doesn't say directly, well, they're not popular because of X reason, but he's identifying the hypocrisy that Harry and Meghan exhibit that really is starting to wear very, very thin. And their victim narrative, its bandwidth has shrunk as time goes on because people don't believe them anymore. And because people don't believe them, people don't like them quite as much. They find them to be complaining, narcissistic, hypocritical, all these sorts of things. And you look at a family too, and you understand that yes, families have tough times, but what Harry and Meghan have done, was there any reason for that? No, not really. And the rest of the world is catching up to it. And I think Chris Rock put to words what so many of us are thinking. And he also talked, I think, more broadly about how that this victimization, cancel culture narrative that people have espoused to is starting to slowly disintegrate. People aren't really all that interested in it anymore. So let's go ahead and listen to the first clip here.
I'm gonna try to do a show tonight without offending nobody, okay? I'm gonna try my best. You know why? Because you never know who might get triggered.
I thought that was really interesting for him to start out on, because identifying that people get so easily offended by anything that you can say anything almost and somebody will take offense to it. And granted, that's somewhat life. You can say something that you think is totally innocuous and somebody takes deep offense to that. But this offensive culture that we live in is that some people can even say, well, I have a deeply held religious beliefs about X, and people are so against that. And can we all agree to disagree on certain issues? And what I think is really interesting too is talking about how he's talking about this knowing he's probably going to offend Meghan Markle, and he really doesn't care. And Meghan should be really, really worried about that. And as well, if your dog started howling a bit during that clip, my dog started to whine a bit while I was filming that. And she was very fussy today. Today was a very fussy day. Normally she sleeps most of the day. Today she was up a lot, wanting various things. So yes, that was rather interesting.
All for marginalized people getting their rights. The thing I have a problem with is the selective outrage. Everybody, you know what I'm talking about. One person does something, they get canceled. Somebody else does the exact same thing. No.
So I just thought that was a really interesting thing to point out, the selective outrage, because I think it's so true. And you got to think of where Chris Rock is in this situation. He was slapped on national television by Will Smith for really no reason. Where Chris Rock is a comedian, he should technically tick people off from time to time. And mature people just laugh or just kind of roll their eyes at it. It's not supposed to be taken unbelievably seriously because he is a comedian. But Will Smith going up and slapping Chris Rock, committing assault, sitting back down, and then getting praised by the crowd about 30 minutes later when he got his Oscar, I think it shows a dichotomy. If it had been, let's say, a white person going up and slapping Chris Rock, everybody would be up in arms. The guy would have been kicked out as soon as humanly possible. So there's a selective outrage, and I'm sure Chris Rock was sitting there in the background off stage going, this guy slapped me, which most of these people agree, we're all anti-violence, yet he slaps me, nobody really does anything. Then he gets up on stage and accepts his award 30 minutes later, and nobody really bats an eye. I'm sure that was so grating to him. So you feel this energy, this frustration with how Hollywood basically treated him and Will Smith. It took a while, I feel like, for the negative reaction to come. I think some of it was not understanding that it wasn't part of the act. I think some people thought that, still thought that. But still, you think somebody going up and exhibiting some extreme violence against somebody else should have a bit of more of a response than it did. And so I think Chris Rock is pointing that out. And you could also say in terms of Harry and Meghan is that Meghan's all worried about every single article that came out about her and everything. And she fails to recognize that Catherine had also a million negative articles written about her. Catherine has been in the public eye 15 years longer than Meghan Markle. Catherine was stalked. Catherine was harassed. There was a bus with a sign that said "Waity that she could see that would taunt her about her relationship with William. She was called all sorts of names by the press, but Meghan Markle just dismisses it because it's not like racism. It's not like racism. So whatever suffering Catherine went through, it doesn't matter because it's not as bad as what I went through. Now, while I understand that, yes, some things that can happen within, let's say, a racist narrative would be negative, I think what Chris Rock is pointing out that what she was complaining about really didn't hold. And so, but one more other clip to get to it, because I think there's another thing in here that I do think really, really applies to Harry and Meghan.
Everybody you do business, they don't even tell you about the product no more. They just tell you how much charity they do. They say, we give back. We like to give back. We don't even like the money. We just give back.
Is that not Harry and Meghan? Don't think about the product, think about our charity. Our charitable endeavors, our charity is so important. I mean, I went to a massacre site where children died, but don't think about that. It was just for charity. It wasn't for Netflix, it was for charity. When we all knew it was probably for Netflix, and they ended up pulling it because they couldn't use it because people would react so negatively to it. it's just a bit ridiculous. They emphasize it so much, their charity, but it's like, but what are you guys actually doing? What are you guys actually contributing? That's a huge question, I think. One of the funny things he brought up too in this is Subaru. So there was, I guess it was a deal with Subaru where if you bought a car, they would give $250 to the charity of your choice. And Chris Rock is like, well, why don't they give me $250 off the car? That's what I want more. Because if Subaru is giving the charitable donation, they probably get the tax write-off for the charitable donation they gave on your behalf. So it was an interesting thing to consider. But I feel like Harry and Meghan, they want to deflect from everything they do, every negative thing they do by saying, well, it's for charity. It's for charity. Don't mind that we're trying to destroy the royal family. Don't mind that our children don't have a relationship with any other extended family members except for Meghan's mother. None of it matters because we're charitable. And I feel like that's so disingenuous and so dangerous. Charity is important, but charity should not be used as a shield for you to get away with things, as a shield for you to charge exorbitant prices because, oh, charity. I don't think that totally washes, and I appreciated him pointing that out.
Number 4, easiest way to get attention. Number 4 is to be a victim. He's like, ooh, where he going with this?
One of the easiest ways to get attention is to be a victim. And now there were 4 reasons, and I can't quite remember the other 4. But I think one of them was showing your behind on like Instagram and stuff, which I understand getting attention that way. But what he's pointing out here is that being a victim gives you currency in today's world, today's culture. And I don't think that's something to celebrate. So you're blaming everybody else for your faults, for your issues. You're taking no accountability. And I don't think those type of people ever really accomplish great things because when something goes wrong, they blame it on somebody else. That's why Harry and Meghan, in part, I think, are failing so spectacularly. They are failing because they put all their eggs in the victim basket instead of trying to create their own brand, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, shunning the royal titles and going, you know what, we don't need to be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. We're fine being Harry and Meghan because guess what? We got talent, we got gumption, we got guts, and we don't need to lean on the monarchy to get ahead. We don't even need to talk about our royal in-laws. Who cares? We're Harry and Meghan. We're going to accomplish great things. We're going to change the world. But did Harry and Meghan do that? Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't, because I don't think number one, I don't think they could anyways. I don't think Meghan's particularly talented, and neither is Harry. Harry's dumb as a brick, in my opinion. And I don't think Meghan is as smart as she thinks she is by any stretch of the imagination, because she should have played her cards so much better than she did. But I think what he's saying there is, yes, if you are a victim right now, although I think that's changing as people are getting sick of it, it is a currency. And Meghan has used this to get herself ahead. So let's go on to the next clip.
So everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Oh, seemed like a nice lady. Just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery?
So I love how Chris Rock can definitely say something I cannot, which is the light skin lottery. I think that is huge. Meghan Markle, throughout her career, I think leaned on the fact that she looked somewhat exotic, but you couldn't tell quite what. She could be Middle Eastern. I first thought she was a Latina or maybe Greek origin, something like that. And so I think she really played off this lack of understanding about where her genetic makeup came from. And then once it became currency to really identify with her African-American heritage, then she started using it a lot more. This probably happened in about 2014. And since then, it's been a currency she could use, and a currency she especially used in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Because think, it was 2021 when she did it. George Floyd had died in 2020. So that sentiment that had been building was still there when she got to that interview. And so she was playing off the motions of people who believed in that narrative that she had spun about racism initially, to continue that and say that somebody in the royal family was racist.
Hit the light skin lottery and still going off complaining, acting all dumb like she don't know nothing. Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the
So I love here that he calls out her intelligence, going, well, what did you think was going to happen? And I don't buy into the royal family racist narrative at all. He goes on to talk about colonialism and everything. A lot of the things he's discussing actually happened 100+ years ago, so it doesn't really factor into any of the royal family right now. I think actually Charles is very welcoming, loved her initially, and I'm sure he still loves her, but sure, it's kind of tense now. So this idea that the royal family was racist, I think, is wrong. But I love how he's questioning her intelligence. It's like, well, did you not know? Did you not do anything? Like, what is with you? And I think that's a huge, huge thing. It's like, did she not do any research? We've been told she is intelligent. So why would she not research anything and just all of a sudden like, I didn't know. I didn't know. And Chris Rock is like, of course you knew. And again, she knew exactly what buttons to push in the landscape of the United States in 2021 that would get the visceral reaction that she wanted and to get the sympathy that she wanted. Unfortunately, that sympathy had an expiration date. It didn't last as long as she was hoping it would because people have seen through the lies and inconsistencies. And I think the royal family has done an exceptionally good job of leaving an open door for Harry and Meghan so that their false narratives fall flat all the time because reality shows that it's not really the case.
You didn't Google this? What the f is she talking about? She didn't know. It's the royal family. They're the original racists.
And what's interesting throughout this, he goes, what was she thinking? What the F about Meghan all the time. He repeats this line several times. What the F? What the heck? What was she thinking? Why was she thinking X? And again, it goes to show that either she is dumb or she was hoping to get something out of what she was saying. That's what he's identifying, I think, there. Maybe not consciously, because he may buy into the whole royal family racism narrative, but I think what is interesting is it either her naivete makes sense or it falls apart the more you scrutinize it. And I think that's what's happening is Chris is like, well, didn't you Google? Didn't you research? Didn't you know? Aren't you a smart person? You've told us you've gone to college. You went to a good college. Where's this intelligence we keep hearing about? And I think the idea too that Harry and Meghan try to portray all the time is that, well, we're just so in love. This is the most epic love story ever. We're so in love. But that doesn't discount you from using your head. And it's entirely driven with them by emotion. They're driving their whole narrative by emotion, and it doesn't work.
What is she talking about? I didn't know. That's like marrying into the Budweiser family and going, they drink a lot. The f is she talking about?
So yes, the comparison to the Budweiser family. And I think the royal family was incredibly welcoming to Meghan. The issue always is Meghan's personality. It had nothing to do with her genetic makeup or anything like that. It had everything to do, though, with her personality, with her actions, with how she treated people. That's what got the royal, like the hairs on the back of their neck stand up, as they were watching her and going, she's not treating the staff well, she's not treating us well, she's not treating this whole process the way she should. She seems to be at it for what she can gain for herself. And that is inevitably what she was looking for, is a way to enrich herself, not a way to be part of a family.
What is she talking about? I didn't know. They're so racist, they're so racist. Some of that she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law. Sometimes it's just some in-law.
And then he drops the hammer. What she talked about was not as much discrimination as she's putting on. She's putting on an immense burden, even though she got the wedding she wanted. She apparently got the tiara she wanted, the dress she wanted. She got to marry Harry in front of the royal family in a huge church with it being televised all over the world. And they didn't accept her. They didn't help her. She was the victim of racism. Well, I would assume if she was actually the victim of racism, wouldn't they not be allowed to get married, not be allowed to be in the church? She wouldn't be given a tiara. She wouldn't have been given all the things she was. The huge party, houses, opportunities, all these sorts of things that the royal family gave her. And she basically spat in their face and said, well, they didn't give me enough. It was racism. It was discrimination. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that really washes. And again, Chris Rock is picking up on this because he goes into explaining, yes, sometimes it's in-laws things, and sometimes people say something that you don't really like, but mature people can go on. So let's listen to this next bit.
I'm like, what the f is she talking about? Oprah, they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby was gonna be. They're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be.
I love how he's mocking Oprah, mocking Meghan. I think it's so, so great. And so I had to cut this up a bit because of how everything came together. So listen to this last bit of the clip.
They're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby gonna be.
Do you know what you also saw in that clip? Was a lot of African Americans are in that audience. And he's identifying that the comment that Meghan is so laid against the royal family is so baseless because guess what? Everybody wants to know what the color of your baby might be if you're in an interracial couple or even just a general couple. Like my parents both have natural brown hair and I ended up with it as a blonde. And even I have a cousin, her daughter has really, really blonde hair like I do, is pretty fair like I am. And my cousin was like, oh my gosh, you guys look so much alike. We were just wondering where this came from. And I have blue eyes. My parents more have brown hazel eyes. And so I was a bit of an aberration within my family. And you just wonder, well, where did this come from? Was this part of our Irish ancestry or our Norwegian ancestry? Something like that. And I think that's a completely natural question. If you're in a relationship with a redhead, will your child be a redhead? That's a question. And I think Meghan put such a horrifically bad spin on what was probably a very innocent comment, which was probably a very innocent question. And she did this to malign the whole institution because she didn't get her way. Her child was not automatically made a prince, and he was offered the title of the Earl of Dumbarton, and she didn't want that title because it had the word dumb in it. And I think we know, based on Harry's intelligence, what we've seen in the last couple of days, I think that would have been used probably pretty liberally against Archie, so that was probably a good idea. So I love that the charge is revealed for what it was. Weak. Meghan just happened to say it at a time where that just ignited things. Absolutely. But we're in 2023 now. It's not 2021 anymore. We've gotten past some of the George Floyd stuff. And so people are evaluating her comments differently, and they're thinking to themselves, you know what? It's not a terrible comment to make if you're just wondering what your children will look like. And as it turns out, her children are very fair. They look pretty white. So it wasn't even a big, huge question. But Meghan wanted to malign the royal institution. She wanted to malign the royal family, and she wanted to make sure she protected her relationship, what was left of it, which was probably not much at all, with the Queen and Prince Philip, because again, she desperately wanted those titles for her kids. So she was willing to trash everybody else in the vain hope that if she could maybe get in good with the Queen would retroactively protect her kids and the possibility of titles or something. I don't know what she was thinking, because it's come back to bite her, because when you make an allegation like that, you need to be able to back it up. And Harry and Meghan, in the interview, they disagreed on what happened. Meghan said it was a couple of times while she was pregnant. Harry said the question was asked once while they were dating. So I think as well, they get things so twisted up in their own heads because they just talk to each other and they analyze social media and they just get each other riled up all the time. So you think of the avocado situation, they're still miffed about that. You think about comparing Kate and Meghan when it came to holding their baby bump. Kate touched hers a time or two. Meghan clutched it as if she was carrying the Messiah. And people noticed, and Harry and Meghan got mad that people noticed, and they ascribed it to racism and hatred, not just the fact that we can obviously see that, Meghan, you are making a production sideshow out of bump clutching. You've taken it to a whole nother level. And Kate barely touched hers except for a time or two. And so Harry and Meghan just are completely in a deluded land. So an innocent comment, and I thought this initially at the time too, got so drummed up in their own minds that they didn't even recognize it as something that was rather innocuous. Instead, they had to ascribe this huge slight to it. And I feel like we're seeing the fruition of that coming. And the rest of the world looking at them now just doesn't totally agree with the conclusions they made, because they made some pretty damaging conclusions and accusations, which most of the world initially, I think, somewhat bought into. But 2 years on, because it's been about 2 years since the interview aired, nobody really believes it anymore. And that's a really, really bad thing for Harry and Meghan.
Meghan Markle! I know the dilemma. Black girl trying to be accepted by her white in-laws. Black girl trying to be accepted by her white in-laws.
So he did go into it one last little bit about her. I love his Meghan Markle! And talking about how she maybe struggled to get accepted into the royal family, and then he reverses and say it's more difficult for a white girl to integrate into a black family, which I thought, again, was really, really funny. And his whole audience was cracking up. Everybody was laughing at this, because I think at the end of the day, people now feel justified in going, you know what? I don't buy into the Meghan Markle thing anymore. I don't buy into her allegations. I've seen how the royal family has treated her with nothing but grace despite the situation. Yes, they got kicked out of Frogmore and everything, but hey, you know, for the most part, the royal family has been very, very generous to her. So why is she complaining? What is she going on about? And so Meghan made the critical, unbelievably dumb mistake of making an accusation that she could not back up. Again, I think Harry and Meghan live in their own little deluded fantasy, so I'm sure she fully and completely believed what she was saying to a certain extent. I think Meghan Markle probably knew she was spinning a tall tale, but it worked for the moment. It was the perfect moment to make an accusation like that. But 2 years on, people just don't buy it anymore. And I think that's why we're seeing Harry and Meghan in a free fall. We're seeing them in a complete and total likability free fall, and they only have themselves to blame. The Netflix reality show didn't help them at all, and Harry's book didn't help them at all. They've told us time and time again, we want to get our story out there. We want people to see us for who we really are. We don't want to see the press to intrude or anything. And Meghan has said multiple times in different things, and I think once in Netflix, and I think in something else, that, well, people don't know the real me. Yeah, honey, we do. And we're not impressed. And I think Meghan and Harry, if they're not absolutely in crisis mode right now, they should be. They really, really should be. And apparently maybe they were, because Tyler Perry flew in for the weekend to chat with Harry and Meghan. And iSource News, which I'm not totally 100% saying that it's the best source of information, but they did point out something really interesting, which is that apparently Meghan and Tyler came to some sort of agreement that he may help her produce some things, that Harry might be a little jealous because Tyler is getting a bit too close. And I could see a lot of those things. There's some of it that did make sense to me, because Meghan should be in crisis mode. She should call in Tyler Perry to help her, because I don't think anybody else is going to in Hollywood. I think they've made themselves so persona non grata, because they've revealed things about people. They've talked about their family. They've talked about their friends. Harry talking about Courtney Cox and that she had magic mushrooms in her house, or that he took magic mushrooms and other drugs in her home. You know what she did when she saw them at a birthday party, which must have been Ellen's birthday party, which I'm surprised she was there? She didn't talk to him. And she just wanted to say, well, I just didn't want to bother him. She brushed it off to a certain extent. But you could also see where it's like, I don't want to talk to people I can't trust. I don't want to talk to people that just will reveal things about me I don't want revealed. Stayed in my home and took illegal substances in my home. Why would I want to talk about them? Harry could have just said a friend. He was staying at a friend's house, a celebrity's house, something. Giving it a name, saying it was Courtney Cox's house, means that she's now a focus of the media too, that she has to answer questions about it. But Harry and Meghan don't think of those things. They think solely of themselves at all times. And because of that, they can't see their own mistakes, their own hypocrisy, all these sorts of things. But we see all of it. And so when somebody like Chris Rock goes, you know what? What the royal family said, asking about the skin color of the baby, wasn't really racist, people applaud, because it's like, finally, somebody is calling her out. Somebody is going through and identifying the things that don't make sense, and giving us, who feel like we've been trying to talk and push against Meghan Markle and her dangerous narrative, It gives us some relief to know that yes, other people in the world see it too, because it's so hard sometimes to go, oh, I feel like nobody sees it, nobody understands it. Why are people not seeing the truth of the situation? But the truth sometimes takes time. And I think this is what's coming home to roost for Harry and Meghan, is that they told too many lies. They told too many inconsistencies. They can't keep their story straight. And they also think that they are the saviors of humanity, that their love story is the greatest thing since Romeo and Juliet. They haven't been married 5 years yet. We have no clue if they're going to make it. And I thought it was interesting as well as that the iSource News also said that Harry was getting a little jealous of how close Tyler Perry is to Meghan. And I think to Harry, yeah, you should be jealous, because she seems to jump from guy to guy. And her jumping to Tyler Perry would not be a shock, because A, he's much smarter than Harry is. And I think Meghan, although she's not as smart as she thinks she is, Harry's dumb as a brick. And so I think that's probably really, really starting to annoy her. And he has a lot more money than Harry does. There was, again, another interesting report from Tom Bauer talking about Meghan's frustration that Harry wasn't worth more money. And it's like, well, I could have told Meghan that Harry wasn't going to be worth much money because he's a royal and they just don't generally have access to tons of liquid cash. It's more of homes, property, furniture, paintings, those sorts of things. Some things that they can't even sell. So this idea in Meghan's mind that she was going to marry a billionaire, it didn't happen. And at the end of the day, Meghan doesn't have any talent to pull off her grand ambition. So what can she do? Well, she can jump to the next guy who has more money, who's gullible, who falls to her charms. That is what she is going to go for, because we don't know anything else Harry and Meghan are doing with Netflix. We have no future thing coming up except for the Invictus Games documentary. And it's taking them a long time, I feel like, to produce content, more time than it should for the amount of money they're being paid. I'm sure Spotify and Netflix are frustrated. And Spotify has not renewed a season 2 of Archetypes. And it's also come out that Meghan Markle's trademark request was denied, which of course it would have been, because it's a dumb name. And it was not unique enough. It's not a unique enough thing for Meghan Markle to trademark. And so that this all is falling apart, I think, is not a surprise, because I mentioned this in a Twitter post, and I will end on this, is that Meghan and Harry, especially Meghan, their sole motivation is money. And people who are solely motivated by money and don't really have any talent to back it up. You could say Elon Musk is solely motivated by money, but he's not. He's interested, in addition to making money, into making other things, making the world better, changing things, doing different things, making it easier to travel to Mars. You might hate the guy, but you have to admit, he has helped grow a lot of businesses, been very, very innovative in a lot of different ways. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. These guys have made a lot of money. Bill Gates, they've made a lot of money, but in the process, they've also grown huge businesses because of their intellect and talent and drive. And Harry and Meghan have drive, but it's to one thing, money. So they'll do anything to make more money. So because everything is money driven, I don't think they have a lot to offer. And I think Hollywood is finding that out. And I think the protection that Harry and Meghan thought they could have with Hollywood has disintegrated. Chris Rock is not the first. There'll be more. There'll be more. South Park started it. It'll just continue. It'll just grow and grow and grow. Because Harry and Meghan, they made the crucial mistake of going into an industry where, yes, a lot of it is about who you know, your influence, your profile and everything. But you also need to have some talent. You need to be generally a nice person. You shouldn't lob accusations against people that you can't substantiate. Because at some point, people are going to wonder if you're going to do the same thing to them. So everybody is going to keep their distance for the foreseeable future. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of the Chris Rock takedown of Meghan Markle. I hope to get this up, but I've had some internet issues, so we shall see. So guys, thank you again for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.